It's only October. I don't want to see this kind of thing anytime soon. Of course, this form of them is kind of pretty. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, October the 11th. This is Thanksgiving Day in Canada, and so this is a long weekend, and it is day 579 of the COVID experience. So let's move right into what I've been up to. Okay, I have completed my Christmas quilt, the one that I'm making as a gift for my hairdresser, and I did it on the Lucy, my long arm, and I think it turned out okay, but I did make a couple of little faux pas on this. So, yeah, watch this. This will explain it to you. So I've got my Christmas quilt all done now. It's all layered. It's got its binding on it. It's completely quilted. And this is going to be a gift. And I'm going to take you for a little closer up look at the quilting on this. Yeah, so hang on. So in the center of this quilt, I did an applique bell, and I placed that on here. I stitched it onto it. In hindsight, what I probably should have done was quilted the quilt first and then put the applique on, but I ended up actually quilting over top of the bell, and that just gives it a little extra security to hold it onto the quilt, and didn't really give me any problem this time, but I still think it's a better idea if you quilt it later. Now, this has little bits of bumps and bulges in it at the moment. Those are not tucks. I just took it out of the dryer. I washed it because this is going to be a gift, and to make it a little softer and everything. And as it hangs a little bit of time, those will kind of drop out of it. But I wanted to show you the quilting. I did the quilting on Lucy, the long arm machine. And so you can see here the gold lines. And I think it turned out pretty good. Now this quilting that's in this is not really a Christmas design. It's a leaf design. But the leaves reminded me of holly to a certain extent. So that's why I used it, because I didn't really have a Christmas one to use. And I didn't want to wait around until I finally got one. I wanted to get this done. As I said, it's going to be a gift. So I'm pleased with the way it turned out, and I'll show you the back here. And this is the back of the quilt, and you can see I made some more flying geese and put them in this orientation, so it sort of looks like Christmas trees in a row. At least it does to me, maybe not to you. You don't see the quilting from a distance on the back of this quilt as well as you can see it on the front, and that's okay. It blended in pretty well with the backing fabric, and no one looks at the back anyways. So yeah, it's all done, and you can even see down here in the corner I have labeled the quilt as well. So this one's ready to wrap up, and come December it will be delivered to its recipient. The other project that I completed this week too is this table runner. Let me get it up on screen for you. That's it right there. And this was an unusual sort of pattern to do because they called it the braided twist because you actually have to twist it. Would I make another one? I don't think so. I didn't really enjoy the process of putting this one together. The end result is okay, but you can see there isn't any quilting in it. And well, the reason there isn't any quilting in it is because the instructions said you didn't need to quilt it. But you want to know something? If I was to do it again, there's a couple of things I'd do different. But I'm going to talk about that on the Idiot Quilter because that's a quilting thing. So you'll have to tune into the Idiot Quilter this week to hear what I was going to say about it. But this is okay, and I have to decide whether or not this is going to be a gift for somebody or I'm just going to keep it for myself. Okay, bring you back to me. All right, so that takes me to the YouTube channel of the week, and this one is called Netflix is a Joke. And essentially, if you have Netflix, or if you don't have Netflix, which is possibly even a better reason why to use this, or for using this particular YouTube channel. It has many of the shows that you might be able to watch on Netflix, and it focuses primarily on the comedy. So here's my review of that YouTube channel. This week's YouTube channel of the week is one that's all about comedy. And if you own Netflix, you've probably seen some of their comedy specials or comedy shows. This particular YouTube channel is the official Netflix comedy part of their network, and it lists all kinds of different comedy shows and comedians you might be interested in. So you can see down here in their playlist they have Dave Chappelle, Jerry Seinfeld, Jack Whitehall, Kevin Hart, all kinds of different ones to look at and play around with. What a Joke with Papa and Fortune. I don't know who they are. Chris Rock, heard of him. I'm sure most of these comedians you have probably heard of. And so if you're looking for a little comedy entertainment and you want to scan through a few different comedians, then this is probably the site for you. Now, if we go into the playlist section, you can see they have ones that are based upon different comedians as well, and even topics for that matter. So there's a lot here. You could spend hours laughing your head off, I suppose, at some of these things. Of course, some of these are probably not appropriate for kids, so keep that in mind. But for a good laugh, go to Netflix is a Joke. So you'll find the link for Netflix is a Joke in the show notes below. You'll also find a link for the latest Stephen and Walter live. We were on a little bit earlier this week, and I forgot to let people know about that last week. And because it is Thanksgiving weekend, we had planned to go over to my sister's for dinner around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And those of you that are regulars to watching Stephen and Walter live know that we usually come on at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yesterday we came on at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just so we would have time to go over to my sister's on time. But nevertheless, even though I had not correctly let people know about this, everybody seemed to have figured it out. So that was pretty good. And if you missed it, I'm sorry, and you can catch it on the rebroadcast. It's up already for that. In fact, there's a link to it in the show notes. And there is a link to the latest Idiot Quilter, episode 135. I call it Spooky Time of Year, which I, with other things, I show you my Halloween decorations and things that are already up for this year. And on the So Chatty episode 29, called You Are Unstable, we talk about interfacing and stabilizer, which are extremely confusing. And we try to explain the ones that we use the most and why we use them and how we use them. So that's on this past week's So Chatty, links in the show notes. So that takes us to what's pissing me off this week. Well, you saw the title that I put in for this week's vlog, Do As I Say, Not As I Do. Well, that saying really comes to fruition when you look at our politicians, doesn't it? Okay? They're telling us all kinds of things during this epidemic, this pandemic. And, we listen to them, and for the most part, most of us follow their guidelines, their suggestions. We listen to the health authorities about this and everything, and we try to do the best we can given what they tell us we should do. Yeah. Now, if you're in government and you're a leader, if you're the leader of any group or organization, no matter whether it be at the local level or at the federal level, really, you lead by example. Ooh, another phrase, okay? Which means basically set the example, follow through, do what you say you're going to do. If you're making other people do something, then you should be doing it as well. Yeah. Are our politicians doing that during this crisis? No, they are not. Is that a surprise? No, it's not a surprise. Because why? Well, you've heard me say it many times before. The only people that get into politics are people that want to have power. And that doesn't mean that we necessarily put in the people that are the best representatives of our needs. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. So Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, had declared that everyone in his party in Parliament had to be double vaxxed unless they had a medical exemption. And lo and behold, two individuals, actually there were three at one point, come to the surface and reveal that they have not had their double vaccine. Now, two of those are for health reasons. One of them, he just outright refused to get a vaccine for whatever reason. He wasn't stating health problems as the reason, he just wasn't getting it done. He no longer has a job. Bully for Ford. He kicked him out. He pretty much had to kick him out. Okay, he had to set the example. So he kicked him out of caucus. So now he's still in Parliament, but he's there not representing the Conservative Party. He's an independent. Okay, fine and dandy. I think he should have been kicked completely out of Parliament, but, that's what I'd do if I was Premier, but I'm not. Nobody'd vote for me. But the other two have a medical exemption. Now, our top doctors just declared in the past week what a medical exemption basically involves, because a lot of the anti-vaxxers out there are trying to claim that they have a medical exemption. In fact, to the point where they're going off to a doctor and getting a doctor to sign that over. Well, first of all, that's unscrupulous if a doctor is doing it for reasons that are not sanctioned by the government guidelines. Okay, and you can bet those type of doctors are collecting a large fee for signing this thing over to get these anti-vaxxers, giving them the exception. Well, okay, those kind of doctors should not have a license. They take an oath, don't they, to do no harm to people? Well, guess what? By letting these people who don't want to get vaccinated, by allowing them an exemption so they can walk among us, that's exactly what you're doing. You're causing harm. You're causing harm because those people could be spreading the disease to other people. And of course, we know what the end result could be from something like that. So, first of all, those doctors, those supposed professionals, need to have their licenses revoked. Go out, drive a taxi cab, okay? Because you're not doing your job and you should be in the profession. Okay, but what the government has said, the exemption is that you have to have an extremely allergic reaction, death-threatening allergic reaction to an ingredient in the vaccine. And yes, there are some people that do have that problem, but they have worked it out. It's something like one person in 100,000, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the statistic, might have this problem. Well, here we go. In the Ontario legislature, the Conservative Party, they have two. There is not 100,000, there's not 200,000 people in the Conservative Party that are in power in legislature. So, wow. What odds? Should buy lottery tickets. One of those people who has claimed that she has medical problems, quite frankly, lies to us. She is the MP for this area. Her name is Lindsay Parks. She sucks. Majorly. Now, I didn't vote for her in the last election, Ontario election, of course, because she represents absolutely the wrong party for me. But I'm not getting into politics right now. Well, I am, but I'm not. So she has lied about other things as well, and I strongly suspect she'll lie about this. Now, they're very unclear as to what her medical problem might be, but I just said they've declared that unless you have a deathly severe allergic reaction to an ingredient in the vaccine, there's no exemption. So, now, the ironic thing about this person, too, this MP, this Lindsay Parks, I'm going to say her name because that's who it is and this is what's happening. Sue me. She, a week or so ago, okay, back it up. There's a big fight between the Ontario optometrists and the provincial government. You know, our healthcare in the province of Ontario is looked after by the province of Ontario, and it's really something that's included in our taxes. So most things are either free for us or they are subsidized. Well, eye exams are one of the things that are subsidized by the government. But the government has not increased that amount of subsidy in many, many, many years. And the optometrists have put out some time ago, a petition to get the government to negotiate fairly with their representatives to increase that amount, because costs have gone up and they have not essentially had a raise. Okay, I get that. I know when I go into for an eye examination, it usually costs me about $120. Yeah, and that's subsidized part of it. I mean, there's a couple of tests she does on me that are not covered by the government, of course. So that's why it's that much. But it's still a lot. But for kids under 19, I believe it's under 19, and for senior citizens, people over the age of 65, eye exams were completely free because of this subsidy. And if the government's not going to increase the subsidy, then the optometrists will say they will have to charge those two groups as well for eye exams. Well, you can see all the problems that are in all of that. Now, the government's coming back and saying, no, they've been negotiating fairly. The optometrists don't like anything they bring to the table, blah, blah, blah. They've given them this amount of money already, blah, blah, blah. It is rhetoric. It is smoke and mirrors. It is what the government is famous for doing in Ontario, and basically twisting the truth. I would call that a lie. So a letter came out. I signed the petition, so I got a letter, an email actually, from the person, Christine Elliott, who is in the Parliament, and she is a legislature, and she is also the MPP responsible for healthcare. And she's done a wonderfully shitty job of that since day one. But she's another one that's an arrogant type of individual who's only in it for power. So what do you expect, right? She sent out this letter explaining exactly what the Ontario government was doing and why the optometrists are being stubborn and all of this kind of stuff. And it was the same blah, 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 blah. So I wrote back to her. Now, I expected my email would just bounce back. It wouldn't go anywhere. And what I essentially said was, what you're telling us is smoke and mirrors. You haven't done a bloody thing. You have to take into consideration people who can't afford eye exams. And so you saying you don't want to create a two-tiered medical system here in our province, but that's exactly what you're doing. The haves can afford these services. The have-nots cannot. So they depend upon this subsidy. Well, I got a letter back. I was surprised. But it was a letter from the local MPP. Christine Elliott is not my MPP. But Lindsay Parks, she is. And that was who sent me another letter. And guess what? Oh, we do take what you're saying into consideration. And then she just repeated, just basically cut and paste the same thing that was in the email from Christine Elliott. Right. How effective. Tax dollars at work, our leaders at work. So here she is now. She's claiming that, she has a medical exemption. Everybody else go out, you go ahead, you get vaccinated and the whole bit, but I'm not, because I have a medical exemption and I'm special and I'm perfect and I won't get COVID and I can't spread it and I'm a dickhead. That's really what it's all about. So thank you very much for, do what you say, not as you do. Okay, thank you for putting that in the limelight so we all understand what that expression means, because this is a fine example of it. Now, there are many more with politicians, because that might as well be their slogan. They must put that on a t-shirt. Do as I say, not as I do, and, wear it to every house debate that they're in. Yeah, because that would probably be the only thing that they have ever said that is truthful. Okay, let's move on, shall we? So, where are we going from here? Product review. Did I get anything new? Well, yes and no. I put in a huge order on Amazon and another site to stock up on filament for my 3D printers. I've been going through it lately because I've been making a lot of things. So I thought it's time to stock up. So I got my Amazon orders came yesterday and on Saturday. And so I got a bunch there. And then there's a place out in BC I like to deal with because they have very, very high quality filament at a very reasonable price. I do have to pay shipping, whereas Amazon, I usually get it on Prime, so I don't have to pay shipping. And it takes a little longer to get from BC to here, but it's worth the wait because their filament is excellent. And the place I'm talking about is called Matter 3D, M3D. Check out their website. They're Canadian based, Canadian owned, a whole bit, and they are really trying to manufacture a high quality product. I don't think you'd be disappointed if you order some from them, especially if you're Canadian. If you're American, I have no idea what the price is. Probably less. I don't know about shipping, but given the dollar exchange, yeah, it would be cheaper for you. Okay, so that's what I've got on order. I also have, and I have got half the order. I've also have on ordered 8 pantographs to be used with my Juicy Lucy, my long arm. Those are coming from the States. And last I looked on their tracking, that was just before the weekend, and I assume everything kind of shuts down on the weekend, or it seems to. They were in a place just outside of Chicago. So I imagine they're flying out of Chicago into Toronto, and that means my pantographs will go to what I call the Black Hole of Mississauga. It is a Canadian postal distribution center. It is huge, and anything that goes there, well, you just spin the big wheel to see when it's going to get out of there and get to you, if it ever does. So I'm not looking forward to that because I spent a fair amount of money on these and I would like my pantographs. But that's about it. Oh, I did buy one other thing new, but I'm going to come back to that in a moment because that's tied in with what I want to say about the craft and chat that we had in this past week. So moving on, the 3D corner. What have I been working on? Well, first of all, I showed you those things I made for my nephew and niece, the dice tower for Dungeons and Dragons and the Stanley Cups that I put together as a joke because my nephew is a big Maple Leafs fan, and the Maple Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. And I don't think, and I didn't take a picture of it, but I had 3 Stanley Cups with the Maple Leaf logo on the front of them. And the first cup is fairly big, and it says below it 1967 champions. And in the next cup's about medium size, and it says maybe this year. Okay, with a question mark. And then the last one's a little tiny one, and it says it's probably not going to happen. Now, these are silly. I put all these things together, and I didn't know whether my nephew and niece would appreciate them or just think Uncle Stephen has lost his mind, which is, they're not necessarily that far off from the truth on that. But they got a real kick out of it. Sarah pulled hers out. She is a dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons. She's into it in a big way. She knew immediately what it was. She knew it was a dice tower. I wouldn't have known that unless someone told me. But I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. So she seemed to be thrilled to have received that. And my nephew, he got the joke immediately when it came up. He thought it was hilarious. So I was happy that, those little trinkets that I made on my 3D printing mill were something that seemed to give them a bit of a thrill. So anyways, that was kind of nice. Now, what have I been working on now? Well, I need to get up and get these, so just bear with me for a second. Okay, I'm back. Professional. I should have had it right here at my fingertips, but I didn't. Okay, I saw this, and you're going to say, well, what is this? Well, it is a chain of skulls. I don't know how well this is showing up in the camera, but there they are. And I'm making them in several different colors and several different lengths. And what they do are they're wind chimes, is what they say. I don't think you're going to hear much.
So that maybe clack clack. But there's also a printed stand for these, or hanger basically, and I think it'll hold 10 of these. So my project is, I think I've made 4 in the white this length. I've got 1 black like this one. I want 2 more like this in the black, and then I'm going to use another color, maybe a purple, and make the shorter ones, the 6 heads. This is a 10 or 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on this one, 8 on this one, and then there's one that has 6. So, you know, why am I doing it? Well, I don't know, because it's there. The thing that's kind of cool about these is this prints in one piece, the whole thing. You're not printing each of these separately, and they move. This is called a print in place. I've done print in place before, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but these actually did work. They came right off the bed when it had cooled down, and yep, you just gave a little twist and that got everything going. So that's one reason why I'm doing them. I'm doing it as a test to see if my printer can handle something like that. And it seems to be able to. Although I will admit, I am having some problems printing this one on one of the printers, so the adhesion isn't good. But I'm going to go back to that and I'll figure that out anyways. As you know, 3D printing is not an exact science. There's a lot of tweaking one has to do. So that's what I've been making. And I have said to my niece Sarah, the one that's into Dungeons and Dragons, I asked her, do you use figurines when you play this? Now, the reason I asked that is because where I go to get my 3D models, as they call them, is on a site called Thingiverse. And I did a search for Dungeons and Dragons, and yeah, there's a whole lot of these figurines, these characters, or whatever they call them. And I guess they do use them in the game. And she said, oh yeah, they use those. So I told her about Thingiverse, and I said, go on to Thingiverse, and if there's some figurines on there that you want, send what they're called to me in an email, and I'll try and make them for you. Now, when you make them, of course, they're not painted, and I thought that might be a deterrent to her. And she says, oh no, she says they buy them. I guess they can buy these in stores, and they come. Many of them come unpainted, so you can customize them yourself, I guess. So I thought, okay. So later today, I'm going to do a little search on my own and just see, you know, who are the principal characters or things in these Dungeons and Dragons games, because I've never played it, and see what I can find. And maybe I can make a few of those next major project on the 3D printers, and, you know, give them to her at Christmas time. I don't know. I mean, we don't usually get anybody gifts at Christmas, but, you know, it'll be Christmas, and I like to give things. I like to give things that I've made, actually. I don't know whether people like getting them or not. I don't think about that. Okay, so that's what I've been up to on the 3D printer, and so this takes us to the last part of the Australian Zoo video that I was showing you from our trip in 2019 to Australia. And I think you've seen by now in the first 2 parts what a fascinating place that Australian Zoo is. And here's the last part.
To be part of our amazing Wildlife Warriors show and to help us spread those important conservation messages.
These canines are quite shy and timid in the wild and are generally found alone or in small groups. Dingoes will only breed once per year, and although generally hunt alone, can be seen hunting in packs.
Well, as you get to know our dingoes, we hope you fall in love with them just like we have. Now, they will be making their way around the Colosseum, so please make sure you say your name.
And speaking of G'day Candace, I think it's time to get to know all of you. Now here at Australia Zoo, we're lucky that we get visitors from all over the world. So do we have any international visitors in our audience today?
Oh, I'll tell you what, there's quite a few of them. What do you think we play? We're going to do a little game of country shout-outs.
Yeah, good night. We just want to show you all just how amazing they really are.
Jessica, what are you doing by this car? I put him in there myself, Daisy. I have no idea how we could have got now.
There is a hole.
Oh, yeah, look at this little snake. They just found it out of the pack. Want to see?
Candace, what are you doing? Surely no better to be handling a wild snake.
Daisy's totally fine.
No, no. You have Carl. He's the most venomous snake in the whole Colosseum.
I have Carl. Can you please take
No.
me? Can you take me? Somebody want to help me here? I'm just going to... Oh, he got me! He got me! He got me!
Possibly possibly a little dramatic, but everyone do keep calm. The first stage of the snake bite is actually super easy and effective. Now just by following these next few instructions, you yourself could one day help save somebody's life. Now first thing to remember, if you are ever bitten by an Australian snake, is to keep calm. Do not move. And most importantly, do not panic. That venom is going to move around your body with your muscles. Alright, beautiful. Oh, today? Jeff? Okay, that is definitely not what I meant.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Colosseum. You guys are in store for probably the most exciting part of the show, because we've got the crux for you. On his way out, we've got Mossman, 14 feet, 450 kilos of one of the last and incredibly perfect predators we have left on this planet. Now you'll see, he's taking his time, because being 400 kilos, you do what you want. We can't make him do anything, but as he's making his way out of the canal, take note that it's not teeth blazing across the surface of the water. He's relying on stealth, he's relying on camouflage to conceal himself from predators making that mistake and going way too close to the edge of the water. You see, Mossman here, he can pick up on vibrations even this far away from the edge of the water. This is right in his strike range, between 4 and 5 meters. He's got integumentary sense organs that are concentrated on his head, and they can pick up on the vibrations of something as small as a bandicoot coming down to take a drink. He doesn't have to reveal himself. Not only does he have this going on, he can also hold his breath for up to 7 hours at any one point. So he can be millimeters below the surface of the water, just waiting for that animal to make the ultimate mistake. Now you can see he's just coming out of the canal mouth, making himself shown. And the only reason we can do what we do today is because we can see Mossman. Out of the wild, it's deep, dark, murky water. We would have no idea that such a large predator was only a few meters away from us. It's absolutely phenomenal to be able to see the way Mossman actually would work in the wild. Because you see, he's waiting for those animals to make the ultimate mistake, to come way down too close to the edge of the water. But the really, really silly ones, they're the ones that actually go out into the water. Because not only can he pick up on my vibrations here on land, he can also pick up on the dumbest animal making the mistake of getting in the water. Now, go ahead. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So, Hunter was talking before about the vibrations they can pick up. He can pick up on the pressure changes in the water 4 times greater. So you can see Mossman, he's a very old, wise croc, and he's picking straight up on that. You can see his tail starting to flick. He's starting to set himself up. He really doesn't like me being in the water. So I reckon it's all yours, Hutsy.
Back setting up again. Now watch as Mossman pulls in real close, strikes out. Come on, big fella. Right there, that is his strike range. From the tip of his nose. Give it up for Mossman. What a weapon. And like I said, he can strike out if he wanted to with lightning speed from the tip of his nose to the base of his tail. But already he's heading straight back to the water, straight back to defend his territory from this dumb animal going back down into it again.
So you could see that we were only meters away from him, but he knew he was in a chance if he went back to the water. That's just where he knows he's dangerous. You can see him swimming through there. That water is barely over knee deep, like you just saw me walking through it, and it's barely making a ripple. This was deep, dark, murky water. You'd have no idea that he's sneaking in. Now, we're trying to mix it up on him today. Crocodiles are incredibly smart, have a frontal lobe just like us so they can learn and remember. Usually we'll feed him right there, but he's being pretty cheeky and trying to catch us off guard. So we're trying to move him on. He might be a little bit stubborn, so right now we're all on crocodile time, so I hope everyone brought a nice little picnic.
I reckon you should get closer.
Get closer, yeah. Come on. Like I was saying, this is one of the biggest crocs in the Colosseum we have. So he's probably one of the oldest, one of the wisest. He's always trying to catch us off guard, trying to get us to get that one step closer. It makes you a little bit nervous playing that game. But you do have to understand why we do get very nervous, because in those jaws he has 3,000 pounds probably more for a big crocodile like him. 3,500 pounds easy in those jaws. So if he was to grab a hold of me, it absolutely wrecked my day. But to put it into a bit of comparison, the machines they use to crush cars only have about 2,500 pounds. The brakes on a jumbo jet, they have 3,000 pounds. So it definitely make a good show for you guys, but yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it too much. Everyone in here will be in the splash zone. Not a good guy.
Be a YouTube star.
So we've shown you the strike from the water's edge. We're going to try and show you another method they use to catch their food. Clearly he didn't read the script this morning. Right now, we'll take my towel.
Now that same strike that these crocs can do from the edge of the water, they can also do straight up and out of the water. So again, you always make the most dependable guy, be that worm on the end of the fish hook on their tail walker.
Jeez, I'm copping it today. But this is a behaviour we haven't had to teach our crocodiles. It is a natural behaviour, something that they use from when they just hatch out of the egg. When they hatch out of the egg, they're only about 15 centimetres long. So absolutely tiny compared to Mossman today. But at that size, they catch frogs and insects out of the reeds. When they keep using it all the way up to this size, they're looking at catching reptiles like snakes, birds. Their favourite are probably flying foxes. They'll roost in colonies of absolute thousands in the melaleuca trees that overhang the water's edge.
Look at
Trying to be sneaky and just climb up the wall. We've all got this reoccurring nightmare that he's going to figure out he can just walk up the back of the tower and it's very bad day that day. Oh, wow. So, even though I missed the feed, we got a rad jaw pop. That was that jaw pressure I was talking about before. Bone on bone. Wow. That just makes your hand hurt thinking about it. But let that be a lesson. Do not overhang the water in the northern Australia. It could fall victim to a tail walking croc.
So croc territory, it's not here on the Sunshine Coast, but it starts up in North Queensland and continues right across the top of Australia, and over to Broome in Western Australia.
That's right. What we want to do here is show you just how quick Mossman can go on the hard, solid ground. We've heard time and time again he can run as quick as a horse. As you can see, you're not the case. Come on, big fella. Now he's coming out nice and slow. Being as heavy as he is so reluctant to make his way out of the pond. Now that, oh. Harrison, he dropped that. Would you mind just grabbing it?
Sorry, I'll watch him.
Oh, he's got it. Give it up for Mossman one more time. Now that right there was nearly top speed for this animal. And you can see why, just based on that body design. He's got those short, stumpy legs, he's got that massive, big, round belly, and he's got that huge tail. Now that is an impediment here on land. But in the water, it can propel him up to 28 kilometers an hour. A lot quicker than any of us can swim, that's for sure. And you can see he is just so adamant about heading back down to where he feels most safe. And this is showing you exactly how to stay safe in croc territory. And as long as you're out of the areas where they're dangerous at, which is in the water, at the water's edge, and in areas overhanging the water, you will never, ever come in conflict with a beautiful and important animal like Mossman here. Now, unfortunately, just before Christmas this last year, the Queensland Parliament decided it was a good idea to pass legislation that allowed for the collection of 5,000 crocodile eggs from the wild. Now, it's such a shame, because as scary as these animals look, they actually inhabit an incredibly fragile niche in our northern waterways. Only 1 in 200 crocs ever made it to the first 5 years of life, and it's even fewer than that make it anywhere close to Mossman's size. So, if you'd like us, or like to help us overturn this legislation, the incredible thing about living in the 21st century is that we've got access to something in our pocket that can give us each and all a voice that's much louder than anything that these crocs can do. I see so many people up there with a phone in your hand. Now that is an incredible tool that you've got, because what we're going to show you is a clip just up here on the big screen. At the end of the clip, it's a link to a petition that Australia Zoo started. If you take your phones out, Follow that link, sign that petition. Each and every one of you can have a hand in overturning this legislation and helping these important animals into the far future. So check it out now.
Easy as that? Oh, I'll let you can see it better here. Look.
She's white. She's white.
At the back of the tire. Yes, it's nice now. It's not raining. Nice blue skies. It's all part of the grounds here at the zoo.
But there's a baby. That's scary. That's the baby one. Very long.
Where are you, Jane? Well done, sweetheart. Blake, just right there.
Wer ist dabei? Guck mal, das eine da hat ein Loch.
Da steht noch einer.
Papa, leben Meerkatzen im Meer?
Nee, die leben nicht im Meer. Ich weiß gar nicht, warum die Meerkatzen eigentlich heißen mit ihr.
You can get Where they going?
Looks like John.
They could climb up the mountain. And then look at this tree as well. Huh? What tree? Better? That tree? Don't stand there like a meerkat. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, right. Okay. Every time we take Just keep
spending time with Mummy and myself until then. So we do training, hopefully show you things for behaviours, things like that. We like a few of treats. In the time, myself and that, hang out with Delilah, and then we're going to back to the book.
So that was the Australian Zoo, which when we first got in there, I was not that impressed when it comes to zoos. I've seen many zoos around the world, but as time went on, it became a little bit more impressive. And the show, which I have on here, as you've seen, was quite good. It was very entertaining. And yeah, it's an expensive zoo, but all zoos are expensive. I think that was about $59 each to get in. Of course, they don't charge for parking.
And they didn't charge for the show or anything.
No,
separate,
so that was, I guess, because you go to Toronto Zoo, and God, I don't know how much.
I think
Toronto
it's about
Zoo now,
60 now too.
with it. So anyways, yeah, I'm glad we went, and it's always nice to see the animals. And yeah, so now we're heading our way to the airport.
So that takes me to events in the past week, and as always, I start with my mother. Yeah, I've given up. I've tried my best. I've tried everything to try and get her to want to take an interest in her own life, and it isn't working. I have done what I can do. So, they had a scabies outbreak. I told you about that last week. That's under control now. They have had a third case of COVID on my mother's floor in her section. They have them isolated away, and they're doing fine. That was disheartening. And on the tail, they're still under restriction though, so I can't go over and visit my mother. We're back to that again. And yeah, thank you people who decide to take your loved ones out and spread the disease. Thank you for that. How considerate. Anyways, she's under sort of a lockdown restricted thing. So fine, I'll just continue with FaceTime, I thought. Then an email. Right on the heels of the email telling us about, the situation with the scabies and COVID and about them being restricted for visitors, they decide they're going to stop the FaceTime program. Well, I'm not happy about that. I really enjoyed being able to visit my mother via FaceTime for several reasons. One, she doesn't answer her phone, which reminds me I should just cancel that because she can't use it. Two, somebody else I've arranged the time, somebody else is getting my mother to the iPad. Actually, they bring the iPad to her because she's always in bed, and they look after the technical situation with it. She doesn't have to touch a thing. She doesn't have to lift a finger. She doesn't. She just stares at me through the screen, and I babble on. I mean, I walk around my house looking for things to show my mother, to talk about, just so it's not a quick hi, how are you, same as always, okay, bye, because that's basically what the conversation would be. And it's not even a conversation because my mother doesn't respond to it. She just looks at you like you're half crazy. And some of you who don't know the history of my mother's situation might think I'm being very cruel about that, because you're thinking, well, obviously she's insane. She has senility, she has dementia. No, she doesn't. She just chooses this. So that's the problem. I got a call from a student nurse that was working over there. I haven't heard from Peller. Peller is the person, the nurse, who seems to look after my mother the most. And she's really good. She's excellent, actually. She usually calls me multiple times in a week to tell me something about my mother. But I haven't heard from her in about 2 weeks. And I don't know, maybe she's on holidays. Anyways, the student nurse called just to let me know that my mother had a little bruise on her eyelid and a scratch. Now, they have to call me to let me know about any bumps or bruises or scratches that my mother may get. My mother bruises extremely easily. She always has. This isn't something because of her age. She's always been that way. I don't know a time when my mother didn't have a bruise somewhere on her. She'd just lightly brush into a door frame or something like that, the edge of a coffee table, and bang, she'd be black and blue. Always been that way. So she told me about this, and I said, well, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I said, my mother probably did it to herself. My mother doesn't have very good control of her hands, and she's constantly touching her face, and she's got claw-like fingers. And she easily could have been like, and because her coordination isn't good, she probably poked herself in the eyelid. You know, her nail scratched a little bit. Or she did it in her sleep. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not beating her up there. You know, I mean, you do have to think about that. That's one reason why they give me the call. Because, you know, they don't want us to think that they are, you know, if they didn't call us and we walked in and saw, oh my God, you're black and blue, they're beating you up. You know, elder abuse, that kind of thing, senior abuse. So that's why another reason why they called, to cover their own rear ends, right? But nevertheless, I do appreciate those calls as much as when I see it come up on my phone, I go, oh crap, now what? So anyways, I thought I'd ask the student nurse as well. I didn't know if she'd know, but I said, can you tell me, is my mother being taken to the, you know, the dining area to eat, or is she getting everything in bed? And the students told me, well, right now they're not taking any of them to the dining area. They've got them isolated in their rooms because of the COVID thing, and they're feeding them there. Okay, fine. And the other question I asked her is my mother using that wheelchair? You know, she's got the reclining wheelchair. It's a loaner. They're trying to get her used to that because they think it will be helpful for her before we invest in one. Nope, she's not using it. She refuses to use it. She won't get in it. So I knew that would happen. I knew that the first time that they ever got her into that chair, she'd be in it for 5 minutes. Then she would say, I'm going to be sick. I want to go to bed. And that's what they would do. And they basically can't make her do anything she doesn't want to do. Not just because my mother's stubborn and obstinate, but that's also the policy, the guidelines. My mother can give consent to things. So if she doesn't want to do something, she doesn't have to do it. And my mother doesn't want to do it. I don't understand it. I don't know why she wants to be in bed all the time. I mean, her existence is nothing. The quality of her life, other people are doing everything for her. Everything for her. She does not even make one iota of effort to help herself on anything. And so she's deteriorating because she's not moving any of her muscles, so those are all disappearing. Eventually, and I've had this talk with my mother. 2 weeks ago, I had a very, very serious talk with my mother. It was all very one-sided because I got no response from her about it. But I told her, if you're in bed all the time, you're eventually going to get bed sores no matter what they do. They're not going to heal. They're going to get infected. It's going to make you very, very sick. You will not recover from that sickness, and you'll die. And you know what the reaction was I got from my mother? That was the reaction. Yep, exactly that. So I've said to myself, it is what it is. I can't change anything. I have tried. I've tried to, you know, I will continue to, you know, do whatever needs to be done on the behalf of my mother. But I've got to start thinking about myself. This is eating up too much of my mental and emotional life. And it is her life. And she can choose how she wants to live it. So anyways, isn't that cheery? Really? I hope I'm not like that when I get to be 81. I really do. Never say never, but please, please, Lord, let me still be active at 81 and keeping my brain going. Because, yeah, this is an alternative, and it's not a happy alternative. Okay, what else? Craft and Chat. We had Craft and Chat this past week. That's where we meet once a month, first Wednesday of every month, and work on whatever we want to work on. It's a Zoom thing. And it was a good time, as always. I got a lot done. That's when I actually got a lot done on that braided twist table runner that I showed you earlier. And I think everybody had a good time. But it was the first time I had used the new setup in my sewing room here. I have cameras all over the place in here, you know, so if I need to do a tutorial on something or want to show something, I can do it. And I have them all set up so that I can just go to my main computer, push a button, bang, I'm into that. So for the first time in this environment with this setup, I was on Zoom. I had a problem. Well, I didn't realize it was a big problem. I knew it was there. But the cameras, they're webcams. They're Logitech webcams. I have 3 of them in here. A C922, which is what I'm using right now to do this, and C920s. And they're good cameras. They each cost about $100 a piece. I've used them for quite a while for lots of things. But I discovered something in this new setup. Their ability to focus is limited to about as far away as I'm sitting right now. You go any further than that, you're out of focus. That's with the autofocus on. With the autofocus off, it's even worse. You just can't do a close-up. You can't pull into something. So it's a combination of the focus, the zoom on these cameras. Now, Walter did a search on the internet and he found that there were YouTube videos, people showing how they were taking these cameras apart, doing something to the lens, twisting it one way or something, giving it a quarter turn, and that increased the focal length. I'm not doing that. Because taking these cameras apart was very involved and very easy to break something. And I don't want to break a $100 camera for the sake of this. Some other guy came up with these lenses. They're kind of like the lenses that they put, well, I guess they're for goggles or something that people use for virtual reality or something like that. But you can buy them. They're not that expensive. And he was putting them in front of the lens of his camera. And that did give him more focal length once he found the right one for that. A bit of a hack to do that. And I thought, well, that's a possibility, and they weren't that expensive. But the thing was, I couldn't get them on, I could get them from the Amazon.com, but not Amazon.ca. So again, by the time you figure an exchange, and I don't even know if I could get them on Prime or not. So yeah, these were going to become an expensive experiment. So no, but they didn't have them on Amazon.ca. So I thought, well, I'll just leave it. So I started playing with the placement of the cameras, and I had a different setup again that would work a little better, but still not ideal. Now, Logitech has a camera called a Stream Cam, which is about twice the price of one of these other ones that I use. It's supposedly a better camera, but I wasn't sure about its focal length. I mean, at $200, and I thought, but what if it doesn't do anything better than what I've already got? But Walter did find the specs on that camera, and it did give you its breakdown of how far away it could focus, and it was much, much better. Well, basically 10 millimeters to infinity, it said. To infinity and back. That's from something, right? Toy Story. So I bought it. Now the thing was, I could get it from Amazon at $199, but Best Buy, which is an electronics store here in Canada, they had it listed in one of their stores in our area, and they had it on sale for $169. So we immediately put in the order, went down. There was a slight complication, but it's not important to talk about. Went down, picked it up, had it, brought it home, plugged it in, and yes, it makes all the difference. I'm just going to show you what I mean by that difference. Now, I may have to do a little lighting here as well, but I can do it from my phone. So, high tech I am. So here I'm just show you. Where is it? Here it is. That's the new camera. Now, let me turn on some lights here. And there we go. Okay. That helps a little bit. All right. Now, right now, I just have it in that position. But if I'm doing a zoom and I'm sewing, I am sitting down at that machine that's right there. And I can zoom right in on me. Or I can zoom right into, you see where the snowflakes are on the cutting mat. I can zoom right down to that and not lose any quality in the video. So that's going to make life a lot easier. So yes, it was worth the investment of money into that camera. Let me go back to me. Okay, so that's a new toy that I bought this week, but I bought it because of what it will do. So those of you that were on the Craft and Chat Zoom this past week, you'll know what I'm talking about the blurriness. Because we were all commenting on it, and I was trying to adjust it while we were on there, and I wasn't having any luck. Well, now we won't have to worry about that anymore. I even have another camera. I have two other cameras One of them I can't use on OBS, which is what I record this on right now. But the other one I can, and bing, there you go. That's a long distance view. Now that's one of the cameras that doesn't have a great focal length, so that's the best I can do, but it's kind of an overview of the whole room. So there you are. You see my camera setup in the room. And I am seriously thinking that after I've used this one for a while, this new one, I might invest in a second one and replace one of those other cameras, like that one you saw the overall room view of it. Now, one thing I also learned, and you may know this if you use Zoom on a regular basis, one thing that happens with Zoom is you can see your video very clear through whatever you are viewing it on. But when that you go on to Zoom, it will become degraded a little bit. And that's because, according to Walter, Zoom is compressing the video itself in order to make lots of space on their servers for the thousands upon thousands, if not millions, of people who have stuff on that server using Zoom. I get that, but it's annoying. Okay, in this day and age of HD and 4K and everything, we are spoiled, but we want our pictures to be clear. But again, the trade-off there is Zoom is a great platform for, you know, staying in touch with people and doing your meetings and everything like that. So that's the price we pay. Okay, we have to put up with less quality for more quantity, I guess. Okay, so what else happened? Well, of course, I mentioned that it was Thanksgiving. We went over for dinner to my sister's, and that was very nice. Everybody there, my nephew, my niece, my brother-in-law, my sister, they're all double vaxxed. We are double vaxxed. It almost felt normal again. So it was just our little group. My sister put on a really nice dinner. She had turkey and everything that goes with it. It was delicious. It was great. And it was nice. It was nice to go over and get together with family again. And, you know, I don't see my nephew and niece very often, and so I got to catch up a little bit on what they're doing. And everybody's doing well at that end of the world. Only one thing missing for Thanksgiving. You know, yeah, my mother, but, you know, given, yeah, if it was my mother from 20 years ago, my brother and his family, who I have not seen in probably 4 years, maybe 5 years. So, and that was brief. Yeah. So anyways, moving on. All right, what's coming up? Walter's on course this week. He is taking an extensive set of seminars, I don't know, workshops, I guess, with Ron Collins. Ron Collins is a designer, fashion designer. I think he works with Janome. He's a bigwig in the world of sewing garments, especially men's clothing. But Walter's taking this class. It's 3 days. I think it's 3 different workshops. He's signed up for all 3, and they run from 9 to 5. It's going to kill him having to get up that early in the morning to get to his class. So that's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I'll be on my lonesome for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I feel like I should do something different. Like, I was thinking maybe going shopping. I don't know. Shopping for what, you'd say? Fabric. Maybe. I mean, as I say this, there's a couple of places I don't go to that often that are, you know, a little ways from me. I could drive there, check them out, I guess. I really don't like driving, but if the weather is okay, then maybe I'll go. Oh, I sound like some old lady, don't I? Well, if the weather's all right and everything like that, maybe I'll get out in the car. Well, I'm used to being driven like Ms. Daisy. That's what I call it. Driving Ms. Daisy, because Walter does all the driving. My car just sits in the garage. Anyways, I don't know. We'll see. I might be involved with a major project. Be a good time to, you know, get on with my UFOs on Lucy and do stuff there and things like that. We'll see. It'll just be strange, okay, that he's not here during the day. Even if half the day he's in bed, at least he's still here. And that's what's like when you're retired. And so anyways, but he's going to learn a lot from this class. It's fairly extensive. I think he's going to learn how to alter men's clothing. and stuff like this. I don't really know what's all involved, because it's garment sewing. I'm not that interested in garment sewing, but I am interested in him making me clothes. So good class for him to take. Okay, so that's it. That's all I've got. So I hope you have a great week. If you are Canadian, happy Thanksgiving, last day of it. And you know what happens after Thanksgiving? We definitely feel like we're in fall. Waiting for the snow. Oh God, no. No, not yet. Okay, have a great week. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.